This is a presentation on participatory vendor selection. In a large organization, it is necessary but often very difficult to aggregate and organize the different concerns and ideas of each decision maker. This presentation illustrates how to bring a group of decision makers to a consensus regarding selecting a health information systems vendor. The participatory vendor selection process is used to construct a numerical rating of various vendors. This rating procedure is based on multi-attribute value models. The purpose of these models is to preserve a decision maker's preference across a large number of criteria. Multi-attribute value models allow the decision maker to make an evaluation of the system on each criterion and use a mathematical formula to integrate these values into a single score that will represent the score of the information systems vendor. There are 7 steps in this process. First, relevant stakeholders are identified and invited to participate. Second, each stakeholder is interviewed and a model of their preferences is constructed. Third, the group is invited to meet and revise a consensus model developed from the individual interviews. In step 4, the group proposes a scoring procedure to go hand in hand with their revised consensus models. In step 5, the group discusses their major differences and clarifies any assumptions and redoes the scoring procedure. In step 6, the group measures the vendor's performance on various criteria and uses the consensus model to arrive at one overall score for the vendor. In step 7, the facilitator documents the group's consensus model and the scores that the various vendors have received and distributes the results throughout the organization. Each of these 7 steps is further illustrated in the following slides. In this example, we are trying to select the most appropriate electronic health records vendor for a large urban hospital. The hospital, in an effort to become more sustainable through long-term cost savings, has asked us to help in deciding what to look for in vendors based on the needs of the different departments within the hospital. Our first interview is with the neurosurgeon. I asked what qualities he was looking for in an electronic health record system. He stated that his time was very important to him and that he needed the new system to be implemented in a very short amount of time. He was okay with learning a new system, but he needed to make sure that there was a good support measure set in place just in case himself or any of his staff members needed help with certain aspects of the program. Surprisingly, cost was low on his list. From this discussion, we were able to determine that he valued implementation, support, security, and then cost. He then provided us with a numerical value that represents how important each quality is to him. From there, we were able to standardize the value, which gives us the weight. The neurosurgeon also provided us with his ratings for each attribute level. Next, we interviewed an emergency room doctor. I asked him what qualities he needed out of an electronic health record system. He noted that the system had to be very easy to use because of its fast-paced environment. Also, the system needed to be secure so that his department would continue to comply with privacy standards of HIPAA. He said that he would like implementations of the system to be fast, but it was not of the utmost importance. We then ranked the qualities that were important to him from greatest importance to least. They were ease of use, security, cost, and implementation. We calculated the weight the same as with the neurosurgeon. A hospital-wide discussion was then held where we were able to narrow down 3 essential qualities: cost, security, and implementation. We then proceeded to rank the sub-qualities and give weight to the attributes. After attributing a value to each sub-quality, we then calculated to see what vendor would be most suitable for the hospital. For each vendor, the overall score is calculated as the weighted sum of the ratings. Thus, for vendor A, the rating of 40 for cost is multiplied by the weight 0.45 for cost. The rating 100 of security is multiplied by 0.035, which is the weight for security. The rating 0 for implementation is multiplied by the weight for implementation. These calculations happen for each vendor. After all the tabulations are completed, the vendor with the highest total score is the vendor selected for the hospital, which in this case is vendor B with a total score of 55. The purpose of participatory vendor selection is to help the organization arrive at a course of action through consensus. When the group discussion ends, this tool specifies a set of attributes and their levels that can be used in rating a vendor. In addition, the group has specified a scoring system, ratings of each level within each attribute, and the relative weight of each attribute. The analysis can use the information to score each vendor. The purpose of one-on-one interviews is to solicit the preferences of the decision maker prior to the larger meeting. The process identified here allows the analyst to listen and quantify the decision maker's preference for the different types of vendors.